How do you sum it up from your side?
It's nice to get out in the dry.
The seven-time champion, they said, was finished. Lap 116.348, Barcelona, January 30th, 2026. A red car crosses the line, fastest of the entire week. Not by luck, not by accident, by nearly a full second. The driver? A 41-year-old they'd written off. A legend they said had lost his edge. A seven-time world champion who spent 4 years fighting cars that hated everything he knew how to do.
So cold that the tires are not really working so much, but got through our program and a bit of an understanding of where the car is at and where we need to improve.
His name is Lewis Hamilton. And the silence that followed that lap? That wasn't respect. It was fear. Because when the greatest driver of a generation finally gets the car he's been waiting for, Formula One doesn't just change, it remembers. Here's what most people missed about Hamilton's fall from grace. It wasn't age, it wasn't motivation, it wasn't even Ferrari's chaotic 2025 season. It was physics. From 2022 onwards, the ground effect era introduced Venturi tunnels, invisible aerodynamic floors that demanded cars stay perfectly flat, perfectly stable, millimeter precise at all times. Any pitch, any dive, any aggression at corner entry, the floor would stall, downforce would vanish, the rear would snap without warning. And Hamilton's entire driving style, the one his father drilled into him before he turned 10, was built on exactly that kind of aggression. Late braking, heavy front-end loading, rotating the car on entry and managing the slide by feel. For 2 decades, that technique made him untouchable. Then, in 2022, it became his curse. George Russell outqualified him 19-5 in 2024. Not because Russell was faster, but because the cars had shifted in a direction that rewarded smooth, progressive inputs, the exact opposite of Hamilton's instincts. The man who won 21 races in 2020 alone could only manage 2 victories across the entire ground effect era. But here's where the story gets dark, because while Hamilton was struggling, one driver thrived. Max Verstappen arrived at the first 2022 Barcelona test with a completely different approach. Smooth inputs, early braking, steering so gentle it barely registered on the data traces. Christian Horner said it himself, Verstappen's biggest advantage wasn't in high-speed corners, it was in slow-speed braking zones, where he could feel the edge of grip like a motorcycle racer hunting for traction. Alex Albon, who drove alongside him, described Verstappen's setup as so sharp, so loaded at the front, it felt like a computer cursor with maximum sensitivity. Ground effect gave Verstappen exactly what he needed, a car that rewarded precision over aggression, a platform that punished Hamilton's attacking style while rewarding Max's surgical control. And for 4 years, the entire sport assumed this was the new normal, that Hamilton's era was over, that the regulations had evolved past him. But then the FIA did something no one expected. They ripped it all out. 768 kilograms, down from 800. 3,400 millimeters wheelbase, down from 3,600. Venturi tunnels, gone entirely. The 2026 regulations didn't just tweak ground effect, they dismantled it. And every single change, it aligned perfectly with what Hamilton's driving style needs. Lighter cars rotate faster, shorter wheelbases forgive aggressive entries, flatter floors eliminate the aerodynamic cliff edge that punished his technique for 4 straight seasons. Active aerodynamics replace ride height sensitive tunnels. The cars can pitch and dive again without catastrophic downforce loss. Translation? Hamilton can brake late, load the fronts, and rotate through feel, just like he did when he dominated the hybrid era. And the first time he drove the 2026 Ferrari SF26, he called it oversteery, snappy, sliding, but easier to catch. His teammate Charles Leclerc drove the exact same car and said he wasn't a fan. Same machine, opposite reactions, because the characteristics Hamilton finds natural are exactly what drivers conditioned by ground effect find uncomfortable. Now here's the part that should terrify the rest of the paddock. Ferrari didn't just build a fast car, they built a quiet monster. 442 laps across 5 days, 0 major failures, not one. While Mercedes was racking up mileage in system checks, Ferrari was running race stints at 85 consecutive laps, almost 2 full Grand Prix, with minimal tire degradation and near-perfect thermal management. The active aerodynamics? Ferrari went beyond the regulations. They developed an intelligent variation that adapts wing angle depending on speed and attack angle in real time. The car doesn't just fly on straights, it reconfigures itself mid-corner, progressively recovering downforce without sacrificing exit speed. Even in wet conditions, Hamilton tested partial mode configurations, while other teams waited for the track to dry. This wasn't a shakedown, this was a statement. And the loudest voice in the paddock, the one who spent all of 2025 dissecting every Hamilton mistake with surgical precision, went completely silent. Norco Rosberg, world champion, Hamilton's fiercest rival, the analyst who criticized Lewis for not adapting, for clinging to past glory, for being a driver past his prime. When Hamilton posted that 116.348 and dominated the entire Barcelona test, Rosberg said nothing, not a word, because silence in Formula One is the loudest form of respect. Here's what this means. Hamilton didn't just find speed in Barcelona, he found joy. After years of fighting cars that felt dead, numb, unresponsive, he climbed into something that moved, that slid, that challenged him. And for a driver whose entire career was built on managing instability and turning chaos into lap time, that's not just a car, that's a weapon. Fred Vasseur admitted Ferrari redirected development resources away from the 2025 car as early as April, giving them more runway on these regulations than almost anyone else. The result? A car that doesn't just work, a car that rewards the exact driver they hired to use it. The narrative has already started to shift. British media is talking about Hamilton's second youth. Analysts who doubted him are recalibrating. The paddock is watching. Because when a 7-time world champion rediscovers the car that fits his instincts, and it's built by the most iconic team in motorsport history, Formula One doesn't just get interesting, it gets dangerous. Scenario 1. Hamilton wins the 2026 championship. Ferrari ends a 2-decade title drought. The greatest comeback story in modern F1 history writes itself. Scenario 2. The car is fast, but the adaptation curve is steeper than expected. Hamilton fights all season but falls short, and retires having proven he still had it, just not quite enough time. Scenario 3. Verstappen adapts faster than anyone expects. Red Bull evolves, and the 2026 season becomes the rivalry we thought we'd never see again. Hamilton versus Verstappen, one final time on equal footing. Has Lewis Hamilton really found his renaissance, or is Barcelona just the opening act of a tragedy we haven't seen coming? One thing's certain, the cars that broke him are gone, and what replaced them carries the fingerprints of the era he was born to dominate. If you made it this far, you already know. 2026 isn't about who adapted fastest, it's about who was built for this all along. So tell me, is this Lewis Hamilton's last chapter, or his greatest one yet?